People have to research when they're looking for automation and unmanned running, research properly what they need for their machine shop. So the only reason I can see you buying a short bar feeder is I've got no space. There's no real reason or logic, return on investment for unmanned running, buying a short bar feeder against a long one.
Welcome to the MTD Podcast. I'm Giovanni Albanese, hosting today's show, a passionate engineer and a very proud member of the MTD team. Today we have an education in bar feeding automation on fixed head lathes and breaking down all the barriers to entry and addressing some extremely important issues in CNC lathe automation within our industry. It's great to be joined by three special guests at the MTD studio today. Firstly, an old friend, former colleague, and one of the most respected and technical engineers within our industry, Clive Leonard. Welcome to the MTD podcast.
Thank you, Gio. Pleasure being here.
It's great to have you, Clive.
I'm looking forward to it.
And it's good to catch up. Secondly, Marcus, again, another former colleague, friend. We worked together for a few years. Welcome to the MTD podcast, sales manager, technical sales manager at First MTA.
Thank you, Gio. Good to be here.
It's good to have you, Marcus, and good again to catch up. We've been doing technical corners all day. Have you enjoyed them?
Yeah, it's been a great experience.
And they will be on the CNC website and coming out soon, so keep an eye out for them too. Now, thirdly and last but not least, our latest addition to the MTD team, Rowan. Welcome to the MTD podcast, your first podcast.
It is, yeah, looking forward to it.
Rowan, great to have you on board and thanks for joining us in the podcast. You've been doing your first technical corners as well today.
I have, yeah, they've been a little bit nerve-wracking, but it's all right. Shakes have all gone now.
Have you learnt anything?
I've learnt a lot, yeah, today, definitely.
Well, I've been on the road with you for the last 2 weeks and I've learnt a lot off you too.
Oh, likewise, thank you.
It's been a good week so far. This podcast is extremely important, and I know, Clive, that this is really close to your heart. It's something that's been close to your heart for a long time and something that you've been really pushing for a long time too. And you have been breaking down barriers to entry and kind of really educating people on this subject. So before we get into this really important subject, what I believe and we believe is a really important subject and something that we can't really understand why the majority of fixed head lathes in the UK have got short bar feeders on when it's not the right solution, not the right automated solution for that application. And by having a long bar feeder on there, you are going to increase productivity, profitability, and you will achieve unmanned running and get instantaneous returns on investment. Clive, before we get into all that juicy stuff, and I hope I explained that correctly, can you firstly, tell our listeners a little bit about you, your background, and why you got into engineering?
Sure. Well, for those of you who know me, know I'm not the youngest person around. I, way back in the 70s, took my apprenticeship into a factory, worked on old cam autos, started getting into production that way, pegboards, moved on to CNCs in the late 70s, then joined Kitagawa in 1991, where I helped them set up their production for their chucks in the UK. But quickly moved into the technical office. There was a need for somebody in the technical office. And my first task given to me was bar feeders. So before that, I'd used simple bar feeders, but immediately got straight into the automation side of bar feeders. And since then, I've been trying to help customers all through these years of trying to educate them, which this will help, on the full-length bar feeder.
Clive, one thing that always fascinates me, people don't really look at bar feeders as automation sometimes to a certain degree. Sliding heads, it's a given. It's built-in automation. But we'll get onto that in a bit. But a great analogy is you'll never see a short bar feeder on a sliding head, and we'll get onto that shortly. Right. Marcus, can you also tell our audience a little bit about your background, please, and why you got into engineering?
Yeah, certainly, Gio. I've always been interested in technical stuff and studied engineering at college, and then kind of moved away from engineering a little bit. Started my career in sales, working for Audi and BMW, and then beyond that, wanted to get back into engineering, and found my way back into a production role, working as operating a mill turn. Did that for a number of years, and then from there moved into the role that I do now for First Machine Tool, utilising my sales and technical experience, and helping people to provide the right solutions.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a great industry, isn't it, Marcus?
Yeah, definitely.
And Rowan, you make me jealous. You're so young and you know so much in engineering already. But can you tell our audience a little bit about your background and again why you got into engineering too?
Well, I've not been doing it that long, as you say. I dropped out of school after my GCSEs, and I started working at Nicken to sell tool holds and rotary tables at the age of 16. And I worked there for about 4 or 5 years, and then I kind of got a few jobs here and there, and then I started MTD 3 weeks ago.
And what did you actually do? Can you tell our listeners a little bit about the experience and some of the, you've got a degree in engineering.
Yeah, just graduated this year.
And you've got a different skill set to me, and like I said, I've learnt a lot of you in the last few weeks. Can you tell our audience, what you've actually done?
Fair enough. Well, I've learned a lot of you as well, Gio, in the past few weeks. Needless to say, but I was working in an R&D centre for Nicken, so that was running different machines every day. So it'd be Mazaks, Hercos, Akumas, Doosan lathes, Doosan mills. So I was running lots of different machines, and I was programming parts on CAD/CAM using Hypermill and Visi and whatnot. So it was a fantastic grounding. I'm very grateful for the amount of skills that I learnt while I was at Nicken. And I think that's really given me a great foundation for moving forward in the industry.
Right, brilliant. And we've been in the studio today performing, if that's the right word, technical corners. Well, I think Richard Evans was definitely performing anyway. It was a brilliant one, and keep an eye out for that. Clive, get into this subject about kind of automating your fixed head lathe. What, in your opinion, why don't you get unmanned running from a short bar feeder, and why do you need to, for the right application, put a long bar feeder on a fixed head lathe?
Okay, so we go around the country, all of us, and we see stuff in machine shops, and we see a lot of short bar feeders. But they've probably not been chosen by the right people, let's say. The people who run the machines don't normally have a say, but some companies allow them to. So people have to research when they're looking for automation and unmanned running, research properly what they need for their machine shop. So the only reason I can see you buying a short bar feeder is if you have got no space. There's no real reason or logic in return on investment or unmanned running in buying a short bar feeder against a long one. And
do you actually sell short bar feeders? Yeah, so this is coming from someone that sells short bar feeders. Unmanned running, this is massive. So in the UK, we're finally embracing automation, in my opinion, especially on milling machines. We're all kind of, or engineers are kind of really investigating automated solutions for their milling machines. There's lots of different types out there at the minute. We're going to be attending the big automation event at FANUC soon. But the automation for lathes, in my opinion, it's like a given. And people, like you just rightly said, are just putting short bar feeders on a fixed head lathe because they just think that is what needs to go on a fixed head lathe. They're not probably educated on the benefits of what you can get from having a long bar feeder on a fixed head lathe. Now, that unmanned running, Clive, if we want to remain competitive in the UK, we need to automate not just the milling machines, but the lathes. Sliding head machines are money printing machines, and they've all got long bar feeders on. There's a reason. So when you go over a certain bar capacity, over 38 mil, why haven't you got long bar feeders if you're doing high volume work or even low volume work in a scenario on fixed head lathes? It does not make any sense whatsoever. Marcus, what's your opinion on this?
I guess it depends on the type of machine. Depending on, there are some machines that aren't necessarily suited. If you've got a machine with, small tool capacity, so if it's only got 10 or 12 tools, then long running for a long period of time might be a limitation in that from that perspective. But equally, if you've got something, a multitasking machine that's got migratory tooling, then there's no limits to what times you can run for. So that might be a factor. But as Clive said, I think a lot of people don't necessarily get offered the choice. That is very, very possibly the case.
And Clive, you've got a solution for this, so start telling us about the solution. IAMCA have just introduced a new Maestro bar feeder.
Yep.
Start telling us about the solution. We've highlighted some of the pain points. So
Okay.
some of the pain points, you're not getting unmanned running or very limited unmanned running with a short bar feeder. You've not got remnant retract. Actually, Clive, tell us the pain points
Okay.
of automating a fixed head lathe with a short bar feeder, and then tell us the solution.
Okay. So before I tell you the pain points, I think there's a misconception, still in the UK maybe, of long bar feeders being rattly old things, oil on the floor. They're not. They're a beautiful, beautiful piece of machinery in themselves. They add so much more to a lathe. There's also a misconception that if you buy a cheap or a lower cost 2-axis lathe, a full-length bar feeder, as a percentage of the cost of the lathe might be the wrong percentage. That's nonsense. What that bar feed adds to your lathe for production, you might be machining a simple part, which is you need, especially the cost of the part being low cost, you need to keep that machine running for as long as possible to get that production out and get your money back. So the return on investment on long bar feeders is probably 3 years or less.
I'd disagree with you there.
Okay.
And the reason I disagree with you, because we did I think you're being too kind.
Okay.
We did the technical corner earlier.
Uh-huh.
And effectively, if you can't automate you can't automate your fixed head lathe properly with a short bar feeder, and you can't achieve the unmanned running overnight, 24/7 unmanned running with a short bar feeder, you need an operator on that machine. So constantly. So say, for example, you're paying an operator, and it's running 2 shifts. So you've got an operator in the day, an operator at night. They may be on 30 grand a year each. They're 60 grand in a year.
Yeah.
So effectively, if my calculations are correct, roughly in 6 months, just off unmanned running, you could effectively pay for that bar feeder.
Very true. So
Maybe.
Yeah, no. It depends on everybody's circumstance and on their shift patterns and so on and so forth. But that is a really good, strong case you make.
And your return on investment, we need to state this clearly, your return on investment doesn't even include the unmanned running and operator costs.
No.
So
It just takes a shift pattern. So we have a return on investment, which anybody can go to the website and fill in their own parts themselves. So they can fill in the steel, they can fill in the machine type, the spindle length, they can fill in the type of steel they're using, whether it's brass or steel or stainless. They can put in the component cycle time, they can put in their part of width. All of that information, it's very simple to fill in. And then right at the bottom of that, it just gives you an immediate return on investment. And it's extremely surprising. I mean, most people, you try and knock 3 or 4 seconds off a cycle time, it's quite difficult these days with the machines they are. But if you can take that time, and that adds up very, very quickly over a period of time. So if you can save time to keep your machines running for longer, as you guys have been promoting for I don't know how long now, it's amazing how much that adds up to. And not many people realise or do the maths to be able to find out where they are. So the short bar feeder against the long one, in my opinion, and we sell short bar feeders, the only advantage is the space saving. For every piece of bar on that machine, you either have to cut it up yourself, so you need a guy to cut it up, or you buy it in 1 metre lengths, which is more expensive. So for 1 3 metre piece of bar, you've got 3 remnants, 3 bar changeover times. So each time the machine's stopping for a period of time, each time that remnant gets put into your lathe or your parts catcher, so you've got to deal with that as well. So the machine quickly in a shift pattern is stopping without those spindles running. Take the full length now, you get 1 remnant, which is taken away from your machine and put into a box on the bar feeder. The bar change cycle is as quick as a short bar feeder, and your new bar, and you're up and running quicker and longer.
So effectively, Clive, the return on investment is one thing, but you're getting a competitive edge over your competitors. If you're buying a £200,000, £400,000, £600,000 lathe or multitasking lathe, meal turn, whatever the case may be, if you're putting or spending that additional cost, a little bit of extra money on having the long bar feeder instead of the short, you're getting an absolutely astronomical advantage over your competitor.
Yeah, so this is one part of machining and one part of the industry I had absolutely no idea about until today.
Okay.
Because I spent a lot of time, obviously, doing a lot of milling. We used to sell tool holders, and didn't do much turning, and I had no idea first of all, how sophisticated the bar feeders themselves were as a piece of machinery. And just watching the videos today and hearing you explain it all today, it just goes to show how actually they should be considered almost a secondary machine to your lathe, not an accessory to. It's not like a chuck, it's not like a set of soft jaws. They are really. I didn't realise also, secondly, how significant the economics of the differences in the short and the long bar feeders were to the economics of your shop floor, and how your 1,000 off might make you £1 per part, or might make you £2 per part, which is a huge change for 1,000 off, depending on what your automation system looks like. Because I think quite like as an outsider looking at the difference of a 6 meter bar feeder or a 3 meter bar feeder, to me, or I don't know what your small is 0.6 meters. I don't know.
1.5.
1.5. Sorry. So to me, looking at that, I would just assume that the difference in features is only the difference in length. I would have no idea that there are some really significant differences in features between the long and the short.
Correct.
And that's something that I think is really important for you guys to put out there, because I'd have no idea. The difference in features it's immense, and it's a really significant impact on the economics of the parts that people are making.
And I think that's the problem, Rowan. I think a lot of people don't realise this.
So just on that point, I've been banging this drum, as you know, Gio, for quite a long time, and hopefully got through to a number of people, because we do sell a lot of long bar feeders per year. I may have converted one more person today within one day.
You get my POC.
Which makes me very happy. Yeah.
No, brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant, and so you should be. And we're going to be moving on to the Maestro next. But Marcus, again, this is game changing, or it could be game changing for companies that have not taken this up, not embraced this, because for me, it's an absolute no-brainer.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think if people can identify the right applications, they can absolutely, make head and shoulders gains utilizing long bar feeders. And I think Rowan made a good point that a bar feed should very much be seen as a complementary piece of equipment as part of a unit, rather than just an accessory that's bolted on the back. The long bar feeders are very sophisticated bits of equipment, and they should be treated as such.
Absolutely, and even Clive's analogy as well, or point that you made, if you were buying an entry level machine or a very a second hand lathe, you're putting a short bar feeder on it because you think it's a percentage of the cost of the machine, but that's completely the wrong way to look at it, because effectively, if you went and bought a lathe that, say, for example, cost you £30,000 and the bar feeder was £30,000, it's the bar feeder that will be actually making you the money. The lathe will be the blank canvas, in effect. And it's all about the application and about productivity and reducing cost per part. That is the key. It's about making money. Engineers are in it to make parts as fast as they can and to get as much margin in the part as possible. Now, Clive, you've got a solution with IMCA. The new Maestro that's just been released. Can you tell our listeners about this? And I think you might sell a few after this podcast.
Well, IMCA, as you know, have been going since 1961. So the development of the bar feeder has moved on and on and on. Now the need today is for this automation. So what we haven't touched on yet, which is a big part of this, is not only the automation to keep the running bar changing time, it's also setup times. So setup times now on full-length bar feeders are far quicker than a short bar feeder. So the new Maestro now, which is the latest one in IMCA's range, you can run from 10 mil to 80 mil in one guide channel. So that's all diameter bar. They do shape bar, which is a slightly different concept. But for diameter bar, 10 to 80, can you imagine running 10 mil to 80 mil, 3 meter long, and your setup time is a minute?
Wow.
You can't imagine it. But that is what the case is with the Maestro. So they got some patented systems to support the bar. So their experience in bar feeding over all these 60 years have told them how to support the bar, how rigid the bar feed has to be in certain areas, and in the beams and the legs and the structures. But also, at what points you can touch the bar and keep that bar from vibrating and allow that machine to run to its full potential. So with all that experience, along comes the Maestro. So again, don't be put off by a price tag of automation or robot price, whatever the automation is. Get that in your head on your return on investment, what it can do for you, because as soon as you've got that bar fee paid off, you're even richer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about what the automation can make you. And Rowan, you watched the technical corner today on the Maestro, which I want to add will be on the MTDCNC platform very soon. I'm not sure when this podcast is going to be released yet, because it's going to be going into a queue for release. But Rowan, what do you make of this new product from IMCA?
So we can talk about the product in just a second.
Of course,
but it's a really general point to make is that quite a lot of people look at the price tag or something, and if it's not a machine, then it's kind of secondary. And it's that's not the point. It's about costing the whole package. Right. And costing the process that you're going to be doing on that package. So I assume if you have a big contract, you might look at a specific machine, you might look at a specific robot, a set of tooling for it, and you don't want to scrimp and save in arbitrarily on everything that's not the machine, just because it doesn't make sense. So if you cost the process and cost how much the process is going to cost you overall and how much time it's going to save, then I think there might be a lot of cost savings and a lot of potential efficiency increases if you cost the process and not the machines or the accessories or the tooling.
Good point.
So anyways, I think that's a good general point that covers pretty much
I think
the whole industry.
It's an excellent point, Rowan, because it's the same analogy as you're only as strong as your weakest link. So when you look at a milling machine, if you've not got the correct work holding on there and you're getting vibration, if you've not got the right tooling, you're limiting your efficiency. You're reducing your efficiency. You're not using your greatest investment to its full potential or full capacity. Right. So it's an excellent point. And what do you think of the bar feeder technology?
So anyway, going back to the Maestro finally. Yeah. Again, watching some of the videos of the Maestro, you're talking about the vibration, the abacus, the V groove, or the V groove clampers that hold on 4 points on the bar. I was amazed that actually to me, a bar feeder was just, looking at it from the outside in again, yeah. To me, a bar feeder was just something, grabbed a bit of bar and chucked it in the chuck, and then that was it. But having this vibration damping down the whole bar, I didn't realise how much that actually probably affects your process at the front of the spindle nose as well. So again, it just shows to show how I was quite ignorant today of the complexities of these machines, and they're not something I guess people get educated on very often. So it's good that we can spend a lot of time talking about them. Yeah. And discussing the specific points like the vibration damping. I had absolutely no idea you'd even find that on a bar feeder.
Exactly. And then added to that, a lot of people think that when they run full-length automatic bar feeders, they have to have a range of the same size parts that you'll run for a long time. Well, not anymore, because if your setup's 1 minute and you're going to go from 80 mil to the next bar of 60 mil, there's no time setup at all for your change.
So you've got low volume automation, which is what we were talking about. Is we saw it. I've seen it a few places. You've seen a few grinding machines that are now putting in low volume automation with RFID chips. You've got some palletized milling systems, and now you've got it with bar feeders.
Yeah. And we have one customer that I know of that does this system, whereby he sells online. So when his orders come in, he sends the program to his CNC, because they're similar parts. Let's say sends the program to his CNC, makes the part, or how many he needs, and then it just changes the program again for the next part. So along with automation, if you plan it correctly like they have, they know they can make a family of parts from one size bar. There's no setup.
Again,
there's no stopping.
Again, it's like the sliding head philosophy now.
Yeah,
they're doing low volume, high mix, out of one bar. They're doing the milling, the turning, and they're using that to its full capability. There's one argument. I used to go out and try and sell long bar feeders on fixed head lathes back in the day with you guys, and there was one argument I can remember that they used to say, well, it's such a big footprint. I could fit another machine tool in that footprint, but my argument to that was always, well, basically you go and then put another machine tool another lathe next to the lathe that you've got, and probably running them 2 lathes together with short bar feeders, you've not got the productivity as you've got on the one.
Exactly.
So you're completely defeating the object, and you're doubling the cost or quadrupling the cost of what you would have spent on a long bar feeder in the first place.
But I guess one of your problems is you don't know that until you've tried it, really, or someone's told you.
Right.
And that's it. It's education.
Yeah.
It's education. It's breaking down barriers to entry and talking to experts such as yourself, Clive, that actually know this. And it's a lot. We've had podcasts in the past with Tony Gunn in America, and people that there is a fear factor of doing the unknown, not doing something that you're used to. You'd never put a short bar feeder on a sliding head. You'd always have full length. People have always put short bar feeders on fixed head lathes in this country, and people have just been following suit. They've not investigated it enough.
Correct. Yeah, and that hopefully things like this will help educate. We sell a lot of bar feeders here. We really do sell a lot of bar feeders there, full length. So, and that trend has changed from the early days of when short bar feeders was probably about 35% of our sales, and now they're 10% of our sales. So people are catching on. The full length bar feeder is catching on, but it needs to catch on a bit more if you want to be competitive and make some money.
Automation is really important.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think ultimately, it's about education, and I think, as you said about the 2 machines, there's definitely a perception that, well, I'd rather have 2 machine tools than 1 machine tool and a big expensive piece of equipment on the back. But actually, it's looking at that whole system and going, well, that's actually going to make me more money than having 2 separate machines, because you're going to have potentially 2 separate operators, twice the setup. There's a whole,
even with just 1 spindle. So effectively, if you look at all the parts that's being made at the end of the year, and you had 2 machines with two short bar feeders, 2 operators, and you stack all of these costs together, stack them all up, and then you stack the cost of having 1 bar feeder, 1 machine, no operators, or very limited operation or setup times. Do the maths. That's all we're saying. Do the maths. Where can you kind of do this online?
Go to the First MTA website under the IMCO, and it has a return on investment. If not, just contact me and I'll send you a copy. It's no big deal.
So hopefully that'll come out as saving you a bit of cash.
Oh yeah, definitely, 100%. I don't know anybody yet who has not been surprised at how much money they save.
Well, I think this has been a really good podcast, really educational, and I can't wait to hear the feedback from our listeners. Marcus, any last points?
Just ultimately, you want your highly skilled engineers, problem solvers, to be solving problems and utilising their skills, don't you? Rather than just fishing parts out of a machine, which is what they're ultimately going to be doing if you don't have a good automation.
Absolutely, and I think that my last point really, if we're to remain competitive globally, and I think it's more important than ever that we remain competitive, start making our own products in the UK and start exporting them. After the Brexit, I think it's absolutely imperative that we do this. It's brilliant that we've started thinking about automation more, but we are in the milling department, and there's loads of options, but the turning department still needs to be improved in the UK, in our opinion. Rowan, Clive, any last thoughts?
Go on, Clive, after you.
All I would say is do your homework. If you're going to make an investment, do your homework. You do it for everything else in life, whether it be a dishwasher, a television, a laptop, a car. Do your homework. Once you've done your homework, you can decide whatever you want. You do it for what machine tool you're going to buy. Just do your homework, apply it to your production, get some help, talk to us. We'll help, whatever we can do to give you the best solution and the best return on investment, and then make an informed decision. You can make an informed decision then, rather than just think, I've got some all kind of automation, but it's not actually giving you what you actually want.
But then you want to automate and upskill your engineers, and then that's what growth means.
Yeah, great, good point.
A really good point, and I think my final point is going off that. If you're not competitive, you won't have a business, in the years to come. So you do need to invest in all the latest technologies and solutions and talk to the industry experts. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I've really enjoyed this podcast. Again, technical corners on the IMCA bar feeders coming soon, and even on the short bar feeder coming soon on the MTDCNC website. Any thoughts about this podcast, please comment. And thanks for listening to the MTD.
Thanks for listening to the MTD podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.